Most people don't really think about their liver very much at all, but the reality is that this organ plays a central role in metabolism, inflammation, and your long-term health. And when it starts to fail, the consequences for longevity are really profound. Many people assume that liver damage is almost exclusively caused by alcohol, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the fastest growing cause of chronic liver disease has nothing to do with drinking at all. It's actually non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is now the leading cause of chronic liver disease worldwide, with rates of cirrhosis and liver failure rising rapidly. Now, the term non-alcoholic was originally used to distinguish this condition from alcoholic liver disease in people who didn't drink, but in practice, it's created this misleading impression that if alcohol isn't involved, the liver damage is somehow less serious, when in reality, the consequences can be just as severe. The truth is that modern life is filled with dietary and lifestyle factors that are just as damaging to the liver as alcohol, sometimes more so. And these factors are driving an epidemic of liver disease in people who think they're doing everything right. So today in this video, I want to expose 5 of these liver destroyers, explain the mechanisms by which they cause damage, and most importantly, help you identify if these are problems in your own life so you can address them before irreversible damage occurs. So let's start with the single biggest driver of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is fructose overload. Now, a pivotal 2009 study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation showed that fructose drives something called de novo lipogenesis, the process by which your liver converts sugar into fat, and it does this far more aggressively than with glucose. And here's what makes fructose uniquely damaging. When you consume glucose, which is the most common form of sugar, it can be used by virtually every cell in your body for energy. Your muscles use it, your brain uses it, your organs use it. But fructose is different. Fructose is metabolized almost exclusively in the liver. When fructose arrives at the liver, it bypasses the normal regulatory checkpoints that control how much sugar gets converted into fat. It's essentially a fast track to fat production. Now, the biochemistry is pretty straightforward, but it's really important to understand here. So fructose gets converted into a compound called fructose 1-phosphate, and that happens in your liver cells. Now, this process drains ATP, which is your cellular energy currency, and it releases a flood of uric acid as a byproduct. Your liver interprets this as an emergency signal, a sign that you need to store more energy immediately, and it ramps up fat production. Fructose gets converted to fatty acids at a rate much higher than glucose would. These fatty acids either get packaged and sent out into your bloodstream if your liver can keep up, or they accumulate inside your liver cells, creating a fatty liver. But the damage doesn't just stop at fat accumulation. The uric acid produced during fructose metabolism is itself inflammatory and contributes to oxidative stress, which damages your cells. The rapid fat production creates inflammatory compounds. The mitochondria, which are the powerhouses in all of your cells, including your liver cells, they become dysfunctional trying to keep up with this metabolic burden. What starts off as simple fat accumulation progresses to something called non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, scarring of the liver tissue, and potentially to cirrhosis. The problem is that fructose is everywhere in the modern diet. It's in table sugar, which is roughly 50% fructose and 50% glucose. It's in high fructose corn syrup, which despite the name is only slightly higher in fructose than regular sugar. It's naturally present in fruits, though fruit is also full of fiber and other beneficial compounds that moderate its effects. But the real issue is added fructose in processed foods, in sweetened drinks, in products where you wouldn't even expect to find sugar. Moving directly on to number 2, and this one flows naturally from fructose because the single biggest source of fructose in most people's diets is sugary drinks. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Hepatology found this direct association between sugary drink consumption and increased risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. What makes drinks particularly problematic is the dose and the speed of fructose delivery. When you drink a normal can of Coke or Sprite or whatever, you're consuming a huge amount of fructose in a matter of minutes. Your liver gets hit with a massive dose of fructose all at once, much faster than it could ever receive from eating whole foods. And what this does is that it overwhelms your liver's processing capacity. Now, the other issue with liquid calories is that they don't trigger the feeling of fullness the way that solid food does. Your brain doesn't register that you've consumed significant calories, so you don't compensate by eating less later. You're adding these calories on top of your normal intake, creating this calorie surplus that further drives fat storage. The combination of excessive fructose and excessive calories is uniquely fattening for the liver. Research tells us that people who consume more sugary drinks have more fat in their liver. They have higher liver enzymes indicating cellular damage, and they have faster progression to more severe liver disease compared to people who avoid these drinks. This also includes fruit juices, which, despite coming from fruit, deliver fructose without the fiber and the bulk that would normally slow its absorption. It includes sweetened coffee drinks, energy drinks, sports drinks, sweetened teas, basically anything that delivers significant sugar in liquid form. The mechanism extends beyond fructose as well. These beverages often trigger insulin spikes, and chronically elevated insulin drives fat production in the liver. They provide no nutrients, no protein, no healthy fats, no fiber, just empty calories that need to be processed and stored. And over time, this creates this awful state of perpetual metabolic stress in the liver. Number 3 is a bit controversial because it challenges what many of us have been told is healthy, which is seed oils, or what many people call vegetable oils. Now, a study from 2018 published in Hepatology found that diets high in certain seed oils promote liver fat accumulation in animal models. And there's growing concern that it applies to humans as well, but obviously there's still a lot of work to be done here. Now, the seed oils in question include soybean oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, and canola oil. These oils are ubiquitous in processed foods, in restaurant cooking, and home kitchens. They've been promoted as healthy alternatives to saturated fats, but the research is painting a more complex picture. The problem centers on their high omega-6 fatty acid content, particularly a compound called linoleic acid. When consumed in moderate amounts, omega-6 fats aren't inherently harmful. The issue is the dose and the ratio to omega-3 fats. The modern Western diet has shifted dramatically towards omega-6 fats over the past century, driven largely by the industrial production of seed oils, while our ancestors consumed omega-6 to omega-3 in ratios of maybe 1:1 or maybe even 4:1. Modern diets can reach ratios of 20:1 or even 30:1. This imbalance has massive metabolic consequences. Omega-6 fats are precursors to inflammatory molecules. When omega-6 intake is excessive relative to omega-3 intake, you create this pro-inflammatory state throughout the body, including in the liver. Animal studies show that diets high in linoleic acid lead to greater liver fat accumulation compared to diets with lower amounts, even when total calories and other nutrients are controlled for. There's also concern about oxidation. Now, polyunsaturated fats, like those in seed oils, are chemically unstable, particularly when exposed to heat, light, and oxygen, which happens during processing, storage, and cooking. When these fats oxidize, they create harmful compounds that damage cellular structures and contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress in the liver. Now, what I would say is this: the science clearly is still evolving, and seed oils aren't as clearly harmful as something like excess fructose. But there's enough concern to warrant caution here. Prioritizing more stable fats like olive oil, avocado oil, or even maybe butter, and reducing reliance on processed foods cooked in seed oils is a really prudent approach. Moving on to number 4, and this is something that most people have never considered in relation to liver health, which is the timing of your food intake, specifically late-night eating. A 2014 study published in Cell Metabolism found that late-night eating disrupts the natural daily rhythm of your liver function, leading to metabolic dysfunction and fat accumulation. Now, your liver, like virtually every other organ in your body, operates on a circadian rhythm, a 24-hour internal clock. During the day, when you're normally eating and active, your liver is primed for nutrient processing, storing glucose as glycogen, and just general metabolic activity. During the night, when you're normally fasting and sleeping, your liver shifts to different processes, producing glucose to maintain blood sugar levels when you sleep, burning fat for energy, and performing cellular repair and regeneration. When you eat late at night, you're asking your liver to process nutrients at a time when it's not metabolically prepared to do so. The enzymes involved in storing glucose are less active. The pathways for burning fat are suppressed, and the result is that calories consumed late at night are more likely to be converted to and stored as fat in the liver rather than being properly processed and utilized. Beyond the metabolic mismatch, late-night eating also affects how your liver's internal clock genes work. These genes control thousands of processes, including how your body burns fat, processes sugar, and manages inflammation. When they're thrown off by eating at the wrong times, you create metabolic problems that continue even during the day. Research shows that people who eat most of their calories earlier in the day have less fat in their liver than people who eat heavily at night, even when they're consuming the same total calories. This isn't just about digestion or sleep quality, although those clearly matter. It's about matching your eating pattern with your liver's natural work schedule. The practical takeaway is to create a consistent eating window. Stop eating at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. Now, if possible, limit your eating to a 10 to 12-hour window during the daylight hours, which naturally creates an overnight fast that allows your liver to switch into its repair and cleanup mode. It's not about restricting how much you eat necessarily, it's about when you eat. Number 5 is perhaps the most straightforward one here, but it's also the most important, and this is chronic overeating. Now, a 2008 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed that weight loss achieved by eating fewer calories can reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, even without making other dietary changes. The mechanism is really simple. Your liver stores excess energy as fat. When you consistently eat more calories than you burn, that energy has to go somewhere. The fat under your skin expands, the fat around your organs increases, and your liver accumulates fat as well. Your liver becomes a storage facility for excess calories that can't be dealt with elsewhere. Over time, this isn't just storage, it becomes a malfunction. Liver cells packed with fat don't work properly. They become inflamed. They start forming scar tissue. And what makes this really sneaky is how gradual and normal it seems. You're not binge eating necessarily. You're not having huge excessive meals. You're just eating slightly more than you need day after day, week after week, year after year. A few hundred extra calories per day, which might just be a latte or a flat white or a muffin, adds up to significant fat buildup over months. Your body composition changes tell the story. As people gain weight, particularly around the belly, liver fat increases in proportion. Medical imaging studies show strong links between BMI, waist size, and the amount of fats in the liver. Now, the good news from the research is that this process works in the opposite direction as well. When people lose weight, particularly when they lose around 10% or more of their body weight, liver fat drops dramatically, inflammation clears up, and in many cases even early scar tissue can heal. What's critical to understand is that you don't need to reach your ideal body weight to see benefit. Just moderate weight loss, maybe 5 to 10% of your starting weight, produces measurable improvements in your liver health. The big challenge is losing that weight and keeping it off, which requires addressing not just how much you eat, but also the other factors that we've discussed, cutting back on fructose, eliminating sugary drinks, choosing better fats, and eating during a consistent daytime window. The common thread running through all 5 of these liver destroyers is that they're all completely normal in modern life. Nobody thinks twice about having a sugary drink at dinner, cooking with seed oils, which is so normal these days, grabbing a late-night snack before bed, or eating until you're bursting with every meal. These behaviors seem normal because everyone does them, but normal and healthy are not the same thing. What's normal in 2026 is fueling an epidemic of liver disease in people who don't really drink alcohol. The other thing that these 5 factors have in common is that they're all within your control. You can cut down on fructose by avoiding added sugars and cutting back on processed foods. You can stop drinking sugary beverages without losing anything nutritionally valuable. You can be more selective about your cooking fads. You can eat during a consistent daytime window. You can eat slightly less to create a modest calorie deficit that gradually reduces your liver fat. The really sad thing is that most people don't realize their liver is in trouble until serious damage has already happened. Fatty liver disease doesn't hurt. It doesn't cause obvious symptoms in its early stages. By the time you're experiencing fatigue, stomach discomfort, or abnormal liver enzyme readings that lead to more testing, you may have already moved past simple fat accumulation into inflammation and scarring. This is why understanding these risk factors matters even when you feel perfectly fine. If you're eating significant amounts of fructose, especially from sugary drinks, if you're eating late at night, if you're carrying extra weight around the middle, then your liver is probably accumulating fat right now. You can't feel it happening, you can't see it without medical imaging, but it's there, and every day that you continue these patterns is another day of worsening damage, moving you closer to permanent, irreversible disease. But here's the remarkable thing about your liver. It has an extraordinary ability to heal itself. It's one of the only organs that can bounce back from significant damage if you remove what's damaging it. People with substantial fatty liver disease who make lasting dietary changes can see their livers return to near normal within months to a couple of years. Your liver can heal itself if you give it the chance. If you stop doing the things that are destroying it and give it the nutrients and the conditions it needs to repair itself, you now know what those destructive factors are. You understand how they cause damage, And you know that they're not just rare toxins or unusual exposures, they're everyday food choices that millions of people make without understanding what they're doing to themselves. The question is whether you're going to make different choices starting today before the damage becomes permanent.